Hello and welcome to Transmute Yourself, where I will help you to get inspired to find your inner peace. Today's video is a replay of my last webinar, which was about 3 Buddhist techniques for uncovering the power behind disturbing emotions. What you will get from this video is a better understanding of what emotions are, including catabolic and anabolic emotions. You'll also understand the 3 possibilities or options that we have at any moment to deal with emotions, including expressing our emotions unhealthily or inappropriately, repressing our emotions, or expressing them in a healthy or appropriate way. And once we get a better understanding of what healthy expression of emotions is, we'll get into the 3 techniques that will help you basically to transmute any disturbing emotion into useful energy for yourself. I'm very sure that you will enjoy it. And if you haven't done so yet, I invite you to hit on like for this video and to subscribe to my channel so that you can get more very useful content about helping you with anxiety and also to help you to live a life with peace and with joy. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. And we'll be talking today about 3 Buddhist techniques for uncovering the power behind disturbing emotions. I'm a certified professional coach from IPEC, which is the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. Their motto is raising the consciousness of the world one person at a time, and I resonate a lot with that. I'm also an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner and a Core Wellbeing Dynamics Specialist. You can find more information about these things in the resources that I will give you by the end of the webinar. There's someone else joining. Welcome. Yes, you can find more information about what I do, but mainly I help people who struggle with anxiety to find their inner peace through my coaching services. And that's what I'm passionate about at this moment. And the name of my company is Transmute Yourself, so that you know. All right. So even before we start fully with the topic, I just wanted to share a little story for your reflection. This story, I will read it to you. It's called The Story of the Two Wolves. So basically, it's a story in which an old Cherokees are indigenous people from southeastern United States who are said to be very wise. So an old Cherokee, he tells his grandson, "My son, there's a battle between two wolves inside every one of us. One is evil. It is anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. The other one is good. His joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, and truth." So the boy, after reflecting a little bit about this story, he asked his grandfather, "So, Grandpa, which of these two wolves wins the battle?" And the grandpa says, "The one you feed." So I just want to give you a minute to reflect on this and write in the chat, what do you think is the food of the wolves in this story? Just reflect on it and come back to me in the chat with whatever you think it is. Are you all able to? There you go. I wasn't actually seeing the chat. Perfect. Thoughts. Elena Shustrova. That's beautiful. Anger or fear or joy. Depends. Attitude, actitud. I also think thoughts. Okay. So of course, this is a story for interpretation, right? There's not an absolute answer. It can be any of these things, and I think that it all goes in the right direction. But my interpretation would be that it's thoughts as well, and this will be the core of most of the things that we'll be talking about today. So basically, if you feed the good wolf with so-called good thoughts, right? That's what's gonna make him grow. And if you feed the other wolf, the evil wolf, with bad thoughts, that's what's gonna make him grow. And sometimes we underestimate the power that our awareness has to actually focus on the right thoughts that can feed the right wolf. And this is very, very aligned to what we'll be talking about today. So I hope that this can serve as a just some little takeaway that you can take for yourself. All right, so let's talk about the main objectives that I would like you to take away by the end of this webinar. I'd love you to deepen your knowledge about emotions and the energy behind them. I'd also like you to learn the difference between unhealthy emotional expression, repression of emotions, and a healthy expression of disturbing emotions. This can, of course, help you to have a greater level of self-mastery for yourself, which in general will increase your well-being. And once we have understood these three levels, let's say, of expression of emotion, we'll learn three techniques based on Buddhist principles that you'll be able to use on your day-to-day. And the purpose of that is to transmute these emotions into useful energy for yourself. Now, the structure, right? The things that we'll be covering. I'll talk first a little more about my story so that you have a better idea of who's your host today. Then we'll explore emotions. We'll talk about especially anabolic and catabolic emotions. Anabolic is what we call positive emotions, right? And catabolic, these other disturbing emotions like anger or envy, etc. Then we'll talk about three possibilities to deal with disturbing emotions. These are not the Buddhist techniques yet, but these are just options that we have at every single moment when we're facing an emotion. Then after that, we'll deal with these three Buddhist techniques to transmute emotions. And we'll finish with a 20-minute guided meditation just before the closure, in which you can just ask me any questions or just tell me any comments. Okay, I want to ask you, can everybody see the slides correctly? Because I'm getting a comment right now that someone does not see the full slide. Can you just tell me there in the comments? Or is it just this one person that is asking me? Well, in any case, you can let me know. Okay. All right, so let's start with my story. As I said already, my name is Javier Peñalba. I was born in Nicaragua, in Managua, the capital, and I lived there for about 27 years. I'm originally an industrial engineer, and I also made an MBA in Taiwan, where I lived for about 3 years. I also lived in France for 7, 8 months, and I've been living now in Germany for 5 years, where I came directly from Taiwan uh, for professional reasons. So basically, I found a job as I was in Taiwan, and I came here to Germany, and I've been here for 5 years. Now, it sounds like very exciting, like right? Like I've been doing a lot of traveling and just experiencing the world and having this type of different experiences. And it's true, it has been exciting in a way, but it has not been everything that's smooth as it sounds, right? I've had, like I'm sure many of you have had as well, some different experiences that have been uh, not necessarily joyful or pleasant for me. And one of them marked me a lot as I was a kid. So I'll just tell you a little bit of that because, well, it relates to me a lot and also to emotions, which is the main topic of the webinar. All right, so when I was 6 years old and I was living there with my mother, with my father, my sister, and my grandmother, which you can see here in this picture, all of them, and the little one there is me. One day, my father, who was actually a very loving person, very kind, I was very close to him and loved him very much, like we all did. He came one day home, acting a little bit weird, right? Only my mother and myself were there at home. He was drunk. He had some problems with alcohol and apparently also with depression, which we just didn't know. So basically, as I said, he was like looking for something, and I just didn't understand. I was very little, but I knew that something was strange, right? So my mother, of course, knew what was happening, and uh, she was able to retrieve a gun that he was looking for. Right, so he was looking for a gun. She retrieved it, and she thought that he didn't have anything else, right? So that he was safe and that nothing bad would happen. So she left me in the room with him, just watching over him while she called for help from an uncle, so that he could help, let's say, to just calm him down. And basically, he just scared me out of the room. He just did a face, right? He didn't hit me or anything, pretty much scared me out, locked the door. Then the three of us, my mother, my uncle, and myself, were like outside of that door. And well, we just heard that bang, right? Like a shot. So he shot himself a couple of meters away from where we were. Yeah. So that was a very, let's say, traumatic experience. But I was pretty much just in shock. What happened after is that my mother, she was able to break into the room, and of course the three of us, we saw his dead body. But I just deleted that memory. I just remember the door opening, and that's it. And after that, I just started dissociating everything that was happening, and was not really feeling anything but emptiness, right? And my mind was completely somewhere else. Well, this was one way of dissociating whatever what I was feeling and what was happening in me, which was my first, let's say, or one of my first episodes of repression, emotional repression. And after that, a lot of anxiety started uh, coming over. So just remember a couple of days after that, I just didn't know what was happening, but I felt like I couldn't breathe and felt very nervous, very fearful most of the time after that. So that triggered my first episodes with anxiety. Then that degenerated, let's say, into some type of generalized anxiety. I was fearful most of the time. That also developed into social anxiety. So whenever there was a party or some type of event, as I was a teenager, right, I was extremely nervous and I couldn't stay there for too long before feeling like drowning. Then I also had a lot of insecurity, a lot of low self-esteem due to these things, and a very deep fear of commitment. I couldn't stay in a relationship for more than a couple of months before feeling again like I was drowning. Now, I don't know if everything came from that episode. It's very impossible to pinpoint everything to a single episode, but I just know that at least my anxiety started happening after that, and some of these other things could be related. And well, I started moving to different countries, as you saw already, unconsciously trying to find my truth and my inner freedom. But in general, I just wanted to have other types of experiences outside of my home country. And as I came to Germany, I was having my previous relationship, where I stayed for about 2 years, and I realized that I just couldn't stay after a certain time before feeling like drowning. And I broke up, right? And I went to a psychologist and started asking like what's really going on with me. And he had started helping me to face my past, first of all, see the things that I just hid under the carpet. I always acted as if I never had a father, actually, or as if nothing of that really happened, and would never talk about it like I'm doing right now with anyone. So I talked about that with him. I faced the situations that I didn't want to, and I realized that it felt good actually to be able to express these things that I thought, well, didn't have any place in my head anymore. I started loving self development and spirituality because it brought me a level of peace that I was never able to feel in the past. And I started implementing some of that into my routine as well. So I was implementing meditation, um, recognizing my emotions, being aware of my thoughts, and not necessarily identifying with them. And that brought me at a higher level, let's say, of peace, of self mastery that I was not really able to have in the past. Now, I also joined a coaching school as I was really realizing how much I loved this topic and also how much I loved helping other people. I joined a coaching school and I got coaching myself, which helped me a lot with my own insecurities and to just be a, let's say, a better person and live more joyful. Now I have a great relationship with my family. It's not that I didn't in the past, but I did have some issues sometimes with my mother related to my own emotional reactions and control towards her. Sometimes I would get angry at her or yell at her, let's say. This type of things just made me very guilty afterwards, and I just didn't know how to control myself. And uh, the coaching, the psychology, all of that helped me to reach a new level of mastery of that. I'm actually engaged now. You can see here my fiance on the right, and I'm taking life more easily and have, I would say, a greater level of inner peace. You can see in this photo on the left also my family, my stepfather, my mother, my brother-in-law, my sister, and her kids. All right, so I'll just read you what I consider is my mission, my main objective in my life, which is to support others to discover and understand that no matter what their past has been, it's possible to live a life with joy, connection, and meaning. Okay, now after this brief introduction on my story, right, I want to start talking already about emotions, which is the main topic of today. So basically, emotions are conscious or subconscious reactions to external or internal stimuli. Now, that's a mouthful, right? That's a lot to take in, and I'll just break it down for you. Basically, I say that they're conscious reactions whenever we know what emotion it is that we're dealing with, when we can just put a label on it, what it is that we're feeling, and we can be aware on maybe where it comes from or what the emotion might be wanting to tell us, right? So it can be something like a conscious process, but it can also be subconscious. Subconscious it is when we just have no idea what it is that we're feeling. And I'm sure a lot of you have had that situation in which you just feel a certain way and you just cannot pinpoint or say like, I'm feeling this way. It's like very confusing. And we don't know what the emotion wants to tell us or where it comes from or anything like that. And it's for situations like this that sometimes coaching can be of great help, because we can help you with questions to just find out what it is that's really happening. Now, I say to external and internal stimuli. External, it can be something that happens to you, somebody insults you, you get fired at work, or whatever it is. And this, of course, is external stimuli. And an internal stimulus is any thought, anything. You might be just in front of your computer working, and then suddenly you have a thought that made you anxious or nervous, and there's nothing happening, right? It's you just have a computer in front of you. So that's an internal stimulus. But all in all, whatever it is it's whether it's something external or internal, emotions reflect our state of mind. So whatever it is processed through the filter of our minds. And that's why emotions, they serve as signposts for our thoughts and our energy. Anytime that we have an emotion, let's say a disturbing emotion like anger, it's telling us something about ourselves. But we tend to just find the fault on the person or on the cause, the stimulus, and put all of our attention on, and our energy there instead of seeing that actually it's just telling us something about ourselves. And the emotion is telling us to do something about that, whether it is to do something internally, like changing your view or your thinking about that situation or person, or actually taking action and doing something about it. So something very important then about emotions is that they drive our actions. Depending on how we feel, usually we take action. And as you can see right before on this orange square there or rectangle, this little formula, thought, emotion, action. So you see that thoughts come first, then come the emotions, and then come actions. And the actions, of course, can give some feedback to the emotions and some thoughts. Now, being aware of the feelings in our bodies, that's super important because that creates emotional awareness that gives you clues to what is happening to you. So when you can pinpoint, for example, I'm feeling happy and where you feel that that happiness, or you're feeling sadness where you can feel that. That allows you to get to know yourself better, to increase that emotional awareness, and in general, it helps in your well-being in your life. And we'll talk more about this later. And one last thing I want to say about emotions here is that we can actually generate the emotions that fuel our well-being, and we don't need to be under the control of the situations in general or of our thoughts. We can, with the right tools and changing our perspectives, just like we talked about the wolves at the beginning, if you fuel or feed each wolf with the right thoughts, you can generate the right emotions that can help you instead of those that can ruin you. Now, let's talk about the different types of emotions, anabolic versus catabolic emotions. When I say anabolic emotions, I'm talking about emotions that derive from anabolic energy. Basically, it's energy that's constructive, that's expanding, fueling, healing, and growth oriented. It's anything that feels good in our bodies and that can fuel your actions in a sustainable way. Right? So examples of this can be love, joy, gratitude, serenity, forgiveness, hope, and all these others that I have there as examples. Now, catabolic emotions, which are the ones that are like our main focus today, they are deriving from catabolic energy, and that's draining, resisting, or contracting energy. Usually, um, it's whatever generates us stress, it comes from one of these emotions. And they can provide energy, like an energy boost to combat stressful situations. But in the long run, they can be harmful for us. They can even make us sick. So let's just give you an example. We have their apathy, sadness, fear. Each of those, guilt, doubt, each of those are catabolic emotions that can give you a certain energy that you can use in the short term and that have a purpose. Um, just one second. Then they have a purpose, right? So, for example, fear. Let's say that you're crossing the street and there's a car that might run over you if you're not careful. So you can feel that fear, and that feel will fuel you, will give you all of that energy that you need at that moment to just run away faster and maybe escape from that. Or if there's a tiger, hopefully it's not something that happens every day, but there's a tiger chasing you, you're gonna want to run faster, right? And you need that adrenaline that the fear is gonna give you so that you can run faster and escape. So this is basically the meaning of this is that emotions do have a purpose. It doesn't serve any purpose to judge ourselves whenever we're feeling a certain way, such as if we're feeling sad or fearful, it is okay. It has a purpose and we have to honor it. And but we can actually transcend that. Once we're able to recognize it and be aware of these emotions, we don't have to be always controlled by them. We can find out what they want to tell us about ourselves and then do something about it, as we will see later. um, Yes, and as I say here, both anabolic and catabolic energies and emotions have a purpose and are neither good or bad. So that's why we use these words like anabolic and catabolic, so that we do not always use these labels as good or bad or positive or negative that are already so used in our society, right? So now let's just give you a little example of an emotionally triggering situation. Let's say that you're at work, right? And your boss gives you more work than your colleagues. You're in the same rank, the same position, but he gives you more work. And you end up working overtime because of this. So as a result, you're very angry at your boss. Just write quickly in the chat any ideas that come up on how you would deal with this anger. I'll give you about 1 minute. You just can brainstorm and tell me whatever comes to your mind. Any ideas, anything that comes to your minds? Okay. Jane says that she can try to think different, that she has more work because she's good at her job. And that's already a great shift in perspective, right? Someone else, well, if you're angry, right, you think it's unfair probably, but if you make that shift, that you're already generating some great emotions for you. um, Armando says that he would tell him that it's not fair and that he has to be more fair, right? That he has to be more equitative with the job distribution. All right. So those are great uh, participations there. Thank you. Okay, so this example, just take it into account and we'll be talking about that a little more. Now, there are three possibilities that we can use to deal with disturbing emotions at any moment. One of them is what's called unhealthy or inappropriate expression, emotional expression, which is pretty much letting the emotions take over you. So if emotions are so natural, right? If there's something that, as I said before, everything has a purpose, why just not let's say, disturbing emotions take over us and we act upon them and express them to the fullest? Well, the problem of that is that we can harm others, we can harm even ourselves or our relationships, we can affect our health as well. It's not unheard of people that get so angry that they have a heart attack, for example, or they have high blood pressure and other types of diseases. So it is actually not healthy to be feeling this all of the time and to acting upon it. Whenever you act upon such a disturbing emotion at the moment that you're feeling it, you're giving um, yourself, you're making it a habit, right? So it's gonna come more often, and you're also lowering the threshold of the sensitivity that you have to the situations that trigger your anger or any other of these emotions. So you might become grumpy or irascible, and you might get angry at the blink of an eye, right? So these are things to consider, and that can become a mood, right? So just a state of mind for or emotional state for a couple of hours that can even become part of your personality if you are not aware of really what's going on. So we can see here with the example of the boss, right? You might very well just break into his office if you just react to this anger, and you might apply one of these wrestling techniques like this guy right here in the photo. Or you might enter his office and yell at him and then you're fired. So sometimes we have to be aware of what we're feeling and then acting consciously. And this is not at all like what we're having right here, which is an unhealthy expression. Now let's talk about the second possibility, which is all the opposite. Instead of expressing overly the emotion, we can also repress the emotion, which is pretty much push down the emotions without honoring them. This is sometimes socially encouraged. For example, in some places of Latin America, it is encouraged for men not to cry, not to complain, not to be sad, this type of things. And in a way, this is what happened to me with anxiety, right? I was not really expressing my sadness or anything that I was feeling. I was feeling a lot of guilt, for example, because at that time I thought that I should have prevented what happened with my father. And I just never expressed that to anyone. And that, of course, was generating anxiety later on. And it's this type of things that sometimes happen, and it's also encouraged, as I said, culturally. Now, repressing emotions can develop into anxiety, can develop into depression or health problems. And it's important to take good care of that, even expressing anger or other type of things, envy, but doing it in a healthy way, as we will see later. Now, what can happen as well is that when we repress some certain emotions like anger for so long, we suddenly become so explosive that it leads into unhealthy expression, like you see here in the back, Hulk. Now, something that I just want to describe this first picture on the right, the guy that has this picture with his with a smile, and the other one that's a little like sad. This is a great depiction of repression, I would say, because you act one way, you might be very sad, but you are acting happy, or you're angry, but you act as if nothing's really happening. And this is not honoring how it is that you're feeling, and it's completely ignoring it, which, as I said, is not healthy. So let's say, if you can think for a moment, how would an emotional repression look like with regard to the anger towards your boss? Like I said before, that example with the boss, if any ideas that come to your mind, you can feel free to write it in the chat if anyone has any ideas. Okay, so the relationship may become fake. Okay, as you're writing, I will also tell you a little. Okay, irritability, intolerance, restlessness, bad temper. That's great. Okay, so basically what I'm interpreting from that, right, is that as you repress that anger with your boss, you can keep working, just acting as if nothing is happening. But in the end, you might it might affect your mood. It might make you irritable towards your boss, but you're still working, right? And you're not really telling him what's happening. Now, someone else said that relationship may become fake. You might smile at your boss. You might say, "Oh, everything is fine," but you're actually not feeling that way. So these things can lead into a lot of anxiety, a lot of uh, not feeling comfortable at work because we're not being really authentic and honest about how it is that we're really feeling. And this is emotional repression. Now, the third one. It is healthy expression or appropriate expression, which is pretty much expressing our emotions in the right way at the right time. This is equivalent to responding instead of reacting. So we'll talk, I'll guide you through a little process that can allow you to express your emotions in a healthy way. That process is, first of all, awareness. So if you have awareness of what it is that you're feeling, if you can disidentify yourself from the emotion and just see it as a signpost of something that's bothering you, for example, or something that's not right, then you will not give the emotion that much power. You will not be feeding that wolf with all of these thoughts and make it super big and powerful, but you will simply acknowledge that it's there and honor it, recognize it by what it is, an emotion, right? Awareness can also comprise understanding what the emotion wants to tell us about ourselves. So, for example, um, understanding whether it's something that you have to change in your way of being, or if it's something that you have to change in your way of thinking. So this is all awareness, right? Now, basically what I was talking about, right, this awareness, that's the first step. If you're aware of what you're feeling and what the emotion could be saying about the way you think, um, or even where it comes from. That's the first step. The second one is acceptance. Acceptance of what it is that you're feeling, what it is that what your situation is, and stopping the struggle or the resistance against what is. And this is very important when we're able to just see how it is that we're feeling, right? And observe it, and we can accept both the situation and how we're feeling, we can take a conscious action, which is the third step, because we get a lot more energy that is, instead of being used to fight against the situation, we can use it to take conscious action. Okay, so this is the third step, conscious action. Now, I'll just walk you through some situation, let's say with the boss, right? The boss, he's giving you a lot more work. So you can first be aware of how you're feeling. You're feeling angry, right? You can explore what that anger might be saying about you. Maybe you're thinking that it's unfair or that the boss has something against you, right? So these are just thoughts. You don't have all of the information, but this is what you think at that moment. Whatever it is, you just accept. You accept that you have that anger and that you have those thoughts and that that's the situation. Then you take a conscious choice. And a conscious choice is way more easily taken when you have peace in your heart, when this anger, for example, has subsided. And this process of being aware in your body and being present with what you're feeling, and then accepting that helps already to lower a little bit that anger, and then you can express it healthily and appropriately by taking some action. It can be, for example, knocking at his door and telling him what you're feeling, and maybe saying that trying to find a solution, right? To maybe just distribute the task in a different way, or something like that. So yeah, if something triggers you, it talks about you, not about the trigger. And this is very important, what I said before. We tend to look for what it is that's causing whatever is bothering us, but it's really just a reflection of the reaction is just a reflection of what we have inside of us, the beliefs and the thoughts, right? So that's the last part that I wanted to talk about this. Now, um, let me see one of the comments right here. All right, so Jacob, thank you. We're assuming that wisdom is activated, but awareness is still the movement of the I, the me, the self, which is the thinker, the experiencer, the perceiver, the listener, the interpreter. Okay, awareness of the I, the me, the self brings insight, which wipes away the I. Okay, the me, the self, which is an illusion put together by the past conditioning of the brain. And that's perfectly, that's great. Thank you for that sharing. Then and only then is there wisdom in life. Okay. All right. We can talk about this. I think that this is a great addition that you're giving here, Jacob, and I think that we can have a conversation at the end of the webinar just to include some of this. Maybe that's something that would feed everybody's expertise and knowledge on this topic. Thank you. Now, I want to talk about these three Buddhist techniques that I wanted to share with you. Before we even do that, I want to tell you where I got this inspiration. I got this inspiration from a book from Mathieu Ricard. He's a Buddhist monk, he's a humanitarian, an author, and a photographer. So the book is called Happiness. You can see here his website. And I found the book extremely interesting and the techniques that he shows as well. And that's what I'll be showing you later. So these are the three techniques that he teaches, right? The first is antidotes. So these are all techniques for healthy expression of emotions. Antidotes is using opposing anabolic emotions to counter a catabolic emotion. We'll go deeper into that in a second. Then we have liberation, which is using a single antidote to free yourself from any disturbing emotion. And the final one is utilization, which is using the different elements that constitute an emotion in such a way that you can feel that energy and fuel your actions. Now, all of these techniques, it's important to know that you can use them either before the emotion arises or before it overwhelms you, or you can use it also after. So if the emotion is too strong and you feel it all in your body, then it becomes harder to do it before, to use the techniques before, and it takes some practice to get there. Okay, so I will be trying to help you to understand how to use them in these different two ways, either before or at the moment when you're already feeling them. Okay, so the first technique is antidotes. Antidotes, as I said before, is using an opposing anabolic emotion to counter a catabolic emotion. And it's based on the Buddhist principle or fundament that two opposing or opposed mental processes cannot exist at the same time. We'll see some examples of that in a second, but you can think of it as if you're having anger towards someone, you cannot at the same time feel compassion, right? So these antidotes, they serve as, like the word says, if let's say that anger or any other disturbing emotion is like poison running in your body, these antidotes are emotions that counter that and make you feel well again. And the secret or the technique is pretty much just shifting your thoughts that can generate corresponding antidote emotion, focusing on the opposing mental process. We'll see some examples here. For example, hatred or rage versus love or compassion. That's one that I really love to use. Whenever I'm getting very angry at someone, I just focus on the compassion and maybe on some of the suffering that that person could have gone through, and that helps in a way. Another one can be envy versus joy. So if you're envious that someone got a promotion at work, for example, instead of focusing on that envy, you can shift your thoughts into feeling joy for that person, feeling actually proud for that person. Another good example is anxiety or fear versus trust or faith. If you have full trust and full faith, that anxiety will completely diminish. So all of these antidotes can be cultivated to lower the effect of disturbing emotions. Let's just talk about love for a second. If you focus in your meditation, for example, on the feeling of love, you feel love for, let's say, your child, your baby. You open your heart a little bit and you feel that feeling of love. Then you can expand that a little bit into the rest of the members of your family. That could potentially include someone that you don't really like, some relative or cousin. And since you're already feeling that love for someone, you can just expand it a little bit. And then you can expand that love for everyone. That's a way to cultivate an antidote. And then whenever a disturbing emotion comes, let's say regarding or related to that relative that you don't like, it will not have the same effect because you have already cultivated love. Okay, so if I want to show you a little bit of a demo, a short demo, if you guys are up to it, on this first technique. Okay, so let's just focus on that first example that I gave you. If you don't mind, just closing your eyes for a second, everyone, you can just, if you feel comfortable, right, just close your eyes. Put your feet on the ground, just put them flat there. And you can put your palms on your laps. They can be either facing up or facing down. And you can start taking some nice deep breaths. Just follow me. Breathe in. As you're breathing in, just feel how you're calming any type of fear, any type of anxiety, just relaxing. Just hold it in there. Now exhale. Let any tensions come out. If any thoughts come by, just observe them and focus on my voice and on the breath. Now let's do that one more time. Just breathe in slowly. Just hold your breath there for a second. Now slowly exhale as you feel your body completely relaxing. Okay, now you can just keep breathing at your own rhythm. Okay, I'm gonna be practicing with antidotes. So I want you to focus for a second on someone or something that is making you angry. Let's say a person. Focus on a person that is making you angry at this moment in your life. Just stay there for a second. Just focus on that as you keep breathing in and out. Okay. If you have that person, just focus on how your body feels when you're thinking of that person that causes you anger. How does that anger feel? Where do you feel it in your body? Okay. Just let that energy flow, that emotion flow in your body. Just let it be there. You don't need to fuel it anymore with thoughts. Just feel the emotion. And now, let's add the antidote. I want you to focus or rest your awareness on any thoughts of compassion that you can have towards that person. You can focus, for example, on any suffering that that person has gone through. Or you can focus on a way to understand that person. Feel compassion in your heart. Just keep breathing in and feel that compassion filling up your body. Okay, now check with your body where that anger is. What remains of that anger? Is there anything still there? Okay, now just keep breathing in and focus slowly on the environment around you. Focus on your feet on the ground, any sensations. Keep breathing in and out. As you, in your own time, you can open your eyes again. Okay, so any experience or any comments that you might have, can add them, or we can talk about that also later. But this was just an example, right? A very short demonstration of this first technique, which is antidotes. Again, it is focusing your mind on a mental process that's opposing to what that emotion is. But of course, it's okay to first recognize the emotion. Now, you can do this at the moment of like before you're feeling the emotion. So right before that overwhelms you, you can also just remind yourself or think of the compassion that you might have for that person, even before that it becomes very big. So it's pretty much like, let's say, before a forest fire starts, you can throw a match right there, right? Or someone throws a match, and that might, before the whole forest turns on fire, you can just turn off that little fire of that match, and that will not make the whole fire, the whole forest on fire, right? So you can do that before, or you can do that after. But to do it before, it takes practice. It takes a lot of consciousness and being aware, very aware of what it is that you feel and how you think. Okay. Now, this is the second technique. Second technique is liberation. It is using a single antidote to free yourself from all disturbing emotions. So basically, if in the previous technique, we're trying to find always which antidote emotion works and which one, or which is the, let's say, yeah, we're trying to find what the antidote emotion is. In the liberation, we have one single one that we can use for every emotion. And the basic secret here is to observe the nature of the emotion and the thought that's generating it. So if we understand that thoughts are simply empty and they're not us, right? They're not really a representation of our essence. They're simply a thought. Then the thought itself disempowers the emotion. And this is the main principle behind this technique. Now, I will show you, by the end of the webinar, we'll do a little longer meditation, like 15 minutes with this technique. But let me just give you an example that I have been able to use with this technique on my day-to-day. So before, I used to get an emotional reaction very easily with my girlfriend for something very silly, actually, which is when she would say, "What are you doing there?" I would feel controlled. I would feel as if I'm doing something wrong. And as a result, I would be defensive and a little bit angry, and I would respond accordingly, right? So um, even before I learned this technique, I brought into some awareness on what it was that was happening. I brought that into a coaching session, and it helped me to become aware of these things that I said, which is that I was feeling controlled, for example, which are things that are not true. Then um, I was able, at the moment of hearing that again, "What are you doing there?" to notice that thought and to disempower it completely by knowing that it's not true, and by simply noticing it before it generated the anger. So I can hear that now, and it doesn't cost anything. I was able to disempower one strong emotion just before it actually was triggered. And I think it's like a use of this liberation technique even before I actually learned it, which is pretty interesting. Now the last one, it's utilization. Utilization is using the energy of an emotion as a catalyst for a conscious action. Pretty much it means that we separate the emotion into its constituents, or to its different elements, and these raw components have energy that we can use for taking action. Now, a high level of consciousness is required so that you don't let the emotions completely overwhelm you or take over you. Let's see a couple of examples. You can see, for example, here someone running, and well, we don't know exactly what's going on in her mind, right? But she's using that energy of the emotion as a catalyst for conscious action. We can suppose that because let's say that something made her angry, and she could be disidentifying herself from the emotion itself and just using the energy to run fast. Of course, that not maybe sustainable in the long run, because it's still a little bit of it might be some catabolic energy. But if we're conscious enough, we can shift that into flow, or we can shift that into a state of presence that's such that allows you to actually feel passion for it. So it's pretty much using that energy, and you can transmute it into something that's even an anabolic emotion. Now, some examples here. Anger, for example, can have an element of focus, clarity, effectiveness, and it can give you an energy boost. So if you're angry at something that happened, let's say, well, it comes back to me something at work, right? Let's say that you had a bad report, like evaluation, and that makes you sad and also makes you, let's say, angry. So that you can use that energy to maybe do a better job next time. But that anger itself, if you consider it anger and you let it overwhelm you, then it will not be that sustainable. It will make you feel bad. It will limit the way that you view the world. But if you simply use that as a catalyst, like the energy behind it, you can still have a good performance and use some of that momentum to do a better job next time. That's one example. Nervousness is another example. It has an element of excitement and high energy boost that can have have an increase in your performance. So that's just another example. If you don't mind, we can just try. Let's see if we have enough time. Well, I don't think we're gonna have enough time to try this technique. We're gonna have to go all the way to the meditation. But I just want you to take that into consideration. If you're feeling anything like, for example, anger, and you meditate on that anger, you feel that anger, and you just go all the way into the energy behind the anger. You can do great stuff with that. It can boost you, and you don't need to be angry at the person. You can simply so to say, utilize that energy for yourself. So this is the third technique. Now, this is a bonus that I wanted to bring to you. This is somehow related to what Jacob has been saying. I cannot read all the messages right now, but regarding what we talked a little bit, so emotions have usually a dual pair, right? What we were talking about before, like anger can have a dual pair in, for example, patience or compassion, or anxiety can have a dual pair in peace, things like that, right? But by accessing higher levels of energy and consciousness, and by disidentifying yourself, uh, or disidentifying from the self. So understanding that you're not the emotions and you're not the thoughts, but you're the consciousness behind all of that. You can access states of being that are that have no dual pair. So this is pretty much like a transcending or a transcendental dimension where you transcend emotions, and that's characterized by joy and absolute passion. Okay, Jacob, please let's wait for the end of the webinar so we can talk a little bit more about that topic, which I see that you're very passionate about. Okay, so this relates very well to this quote from Eckhart Tolle, which says, "Rather than being your thoughts and emotions, be the awareness behind them." When you can feel this peace and deep bliss that hides behind all of the thoughts and the emotions, that's when you can still feel some of the emotions. They can still come by once in a while, but you will not let them control you. You will simply see them as what they are, emotions, and deep inside you will still have some peace, some deep peace. Okay. All right, let's do the sorry. Let's try now a meditation that I brought for you. It is time now to share this beautiful meditation. I will share with you some sound. Hopefully it works. Just 1 second. All right. Okay, let me know if you can hear that. Someone can. Okay, perfect. You can hear that. Thank you. Perfect. Right. Second. All right, so we'll be using in this meditation, go back just to the slide. Okay. Okay. This is going to be a liberation meditation, which we talked about a little, some slides ago, which is basically using one antidote to allow you to transmute any disturbing emotion. Okay. So first, you can sit straight in your chair. You can put your feet on the ground. You can take a deep breath. As you close your eyes, okay, now feel your belly rising up as you inhale. Feel it contracting as you exhale. You can breathe in. Just hold the air. And now you can breathe out. Let's do that again. Just breathe in. Hold the air. And just fully relax as you breathe out. Let's do that one last time. Just breathe in. Hold it. Now exhale and relax. Now continue breathing at your own pace as you fully relax. If any thoughts come to your mind, just observe them as clouds passing by in the sky, without engaging with any of them, while you slowly return to your breath. Now, imagine how you're slowly walking into a clear lake in plain daylight, feeling the water touching your feet. It is a warm, comfortable, and even breathable water. And you really want to go in. I'll take a couple of steps into the lake and feel the water touching your knees. Now, feel the space that your knees occupy in the water, and stay there for a moment. Take a couple of steps again, and feel as though with every step, your body feels more relaxed and weightless, making it easier for you to let go of any resistance that you might be holding in your body. And now, feel how the water reaches your waist. Feel how the water makes contact with your waist, and feel the space that your waist takes in that warm, comfortable water. You stay there and relax. Now, take a couple of steps as the water surrounds your shoulders. Rest your awareness in the water around your shoulders. Now, take another step. Feel how the water is at the level of your neck. It feels so comfortable, and it's definitely a place where you can fully let go of any resistance and be fully yourself. Now, take a last step. Let the water cover your whole body. You're in the water and you're able to breathe. Feel the water all around you as you deeply relax and allow yourself to let go. Now, rest your attention for a moment on any situation that's disturbing you right now. It can be something at home, at work, in your relationship, or anything else. Focus your attention on that situation for a moment and describe internally, how does it make you feel? Which emotions pop up? Is it anger, frustration, envy, greed, anxiety, or sadness? Put a label on the emotion. As you rest your awareness on the place of your body where the emotion feels stronger. Just breathe into that place and let the emotion expand into that area. And then breathe out. Stay present with your body and with the movement of the energy of your emotion in your body. Thoughts can come up, but just observe them. Come back to your body. Now, as the energy of that emotion is still present in your body, come back for a second to that thought that generated that emotion. Let the light of your awareness shine over it. As you look at it intently and with your full attention. How does the thought look like? Does it have a shape or a volume? How dense is it? Can you see through the thought? Now, disturbing thoughts are like black clouds in the sky. They may look solid and scary, but as you go through them, they're nothing but vapor. As you shine your awareness on that thought, let all meaning from that thought just fall off like labels that were glued on a wet surface. And now observe the thought bare of any meaning, empty. What power does it have over you now? Stay there for a moment. And now, can you see through the thought? That's the place where your consciousness lies. The sky behind the clouds. The home of your essence. Feel that peace and full acceptance that surrounds your consciousness. And stay present with it. This beautiful, accepting, and peaceful essence lies behind every thought. And is always there observing and enjoying the journey. And now, surrounded by this peace, what is left in your body of that original disturbing emotion? How does your body feel now? Stay present with your body as you keep enjoying this wonderful peace and trust. And now, fueled with this sense of trust, peace, and faith, allow your decisions to be aligned with your essence. What will you do to address your situation? Let this peace and this wisdom of your consciousness be your compass in your life. And now, see how your actions aligned with this peace solve the disturbing situation. As the situation dissolves into light and peace that you breathe into your body. Feel that peace fill you up from your toes to your head and relax you completely. Stay there for a moment. And now, take a deep breath and start focusing your attention on your surroundings. Feel your feet on the floor, your weight in the chair, any sounds or sensations around you, as you, in your own time, allow yourself to open your eyes and come back full of peace and new energy to the here and now. Thanks everyone. Really appreciate everyone being here. Thanks for your opinions and your everything that you expressed. And I'll be seeing you very soon. Thanks again for participating, and just keep in touch. Thank you. That was it for this webinar. Thank you. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so yet, I invite you again to hit on like and to subscribe to this channel so you can get more updates and useful content for you. Thank you and see you soon.